Bull Rush. I am, as always, Mr. Schmoogledorf, handled on my right by that left, actually, by Mr. Noirbot, right by Mr. Wolfman, your right, my left. How we doing
Let's
today,
get it
guys?
together.
I can.
Together.
I know my directions. Don't mind
We
me.
are directionally challenged this week.
Nah. How was you guys' lovely break there?
I got stuck in Birmingham, Alabama for 4 hours on the way.
I was
to
reading about that.
Christmas. Yeah.
And you were nearby us as well.
Yeah, vaguely. It was
Vaguely.
Same
Yeah.
state. It's worth it.
Yeah, and in the
Well,
land
what-
of
how
internet
far
that
is
only
Fort
doesn't
Lauderdale
work.
from here?
Fort Lauderdale,
Yeah.
like 2 hours. Not too
Yeah.
bad.
I mean, I was in Fort Myers, but
Whatever.
very different Fort.
Different Fort.
Much like the fact that I dislike that every major city in Ohio starts with a C, and I can never remember which one's Cleveland, Cincinnati, or Columbus. Every city in Florida seems to be Fort something, and I can never remember where any of them are.
There are a lot of cities that are entitled like Fort something, Fort Lauderdale,
Yeah,
Fort Worth,
Fort
Fort Myers. Yep.
There's
There are
a lot of
ones.
winters too.
Yeah, a lot of winters. Winter Park,
Oh, yeah,
Winter
that's
Garden,
what
winters.
Winter
That's 'cause everyone sits
Springs.
their winters there.
Yep. No, but we've had a lovely break, as you could tell by Noirbot's absolute trivial pursuits there. Fantastic
I
breaks.
avoided playing Trivial Pursuit. I consider that a classic holiday move.
Yeah, exactly. But we do have some wonderful things to talk about today. We're going to be talking about what
Boy.
exactly we want from Gigantic going into this new year, what the things that they're expecting, and kind of what we want out of the things that they're pointing towards, like what we want from guilds, what we want from cross-platform play and progression, what we want from the new and upcoming and wildly waited for and asked for party systems. But before we do, we have a quick little announcement. Today in the mail, we got these lovely little passes, PAX South. All three of us are going to be going to PAX South this year, so if you guys want to come on by and find us, we're going to be tweeting out after the shows, where we're going to be, what bars we're going to be going at, so that'll be out on our GGU Twitter. So if you want to go ahead and hang out with us, get a couple of beers, buy us a couple of beers, because we'd love that, that's what we're going to be doing.
Adult.
Yeah, he's going to be the sober one. So
I
yeah.
will say, for the purposes of other people, I will be, as I am driving down to San Antonio instead of flying. If
He'll
you
be bringing
happen-
drinks, yeah.
Yes, if you happen to be able to smuggle in some sort of beer from wherever you're from, as long as that is not Texas, you are welcome to drop by, and I will open something interesting from Texas, and we can have a drink together some evening.
Yep.
That is my deal to you.
See, if we were driving, I would be bringing a lovely growler of what I'm drinking right now. A local brewery nearby called Crooked Can makes an absolutely fantastic IPA. So
Yeah, just take a check bag if you're flying Southwest.
we are probably
these
flying
two just like
Southwest.
to get drunk, guys. It's like this is the whole show right here.
Yep, that's
Like, you
that's
don't-
the show.
you-
That's
like,
how it's
this-
been since the
this is how
beginning,
it's
though.
been.
Literally every
Yeah.
show has been that.
Oh boy.
Oh man, but that is the way for the news right now. Let's dive right on into what we're talking about today. Recently, we've been having a couple of tweets this week from Gigantic, or from the Gigantic Twitter, saying that they're locking down the testing schedule for this month at the very least, and what they kind of want to look into it. I don't think they're going to be doing too much soon. I don't think there's going to be much going on this month, just because we know that they're going to be working on the party systems, and we know what's going to go into that, and they kind of talked about it a little bit on the forum post that they put up on the beta forums, saying that they're going to be launching into the Universal Windows application. Now, of course, they've been working on that for quite some time now. That's
Yeah.
probably what's taken up a majority of their development cycle for the past few months, is going to the Universal Windows platform. But they say they have the first sets of iterations for party systems, but as we all know, the first few sets of anything don't necessarily represent anywhere near the closest to the final product.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, I'm hoping for something maybe like 1 weekend this month. Maybe they do like a quick
Which, if
weekend
they-
test.
If they do one weekend this month, it'll probably be the weekend roll at PAX Out.
Yeah, right.
Because that being the last weekend. in
Well,
January.
no, because
I don't know.
Toomey was saying he was going to
No,
go to
Tubi's
PAX
just
South
going
as
for
his
fun.
own, yeah, on his own.
Motiga, yeah, in case you didn't hear, Motiga has no official presence at PAX South, which actually, now that they posted the exhibitor list for PAX South earlier today or last night, and honestly, that seems like less of a deviation based on the fact that pretty much literally no one is at PAX South this year. It's actually, this is a bit off topic, but like, PAX South this year, not a lot of companies. I mean, you've got your regular mainstays, like you got Devolver and
Yeah. Is
Grey Goo.
Yeah, isn't OMG going? That's like
Oh,
a Dreadnought.
I don't think so. Like I remember looking, it might maybe Dreadnought, but like no Motiga. We're not seeing anything from really any of the major competition. Like we're not seeing anything. Paladins, Hi-Rez doesn't have a booth.
Blizzard doesn't have a booth.
Blizzard doesn't have, but Blizzard officially backed out like last year.
Yeah.
Blizzard is officially not doing PAX, but like the Epic Games is not going to be there with Paragon. 2K, surprisingly, 2K is not going to be there from what I saw, which is interesting considering they're headquartered in Dallas.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
And
but
with Battleborn coming out this year, I'm like actually kind of shocked. Like I'm wondering if that is an early sign that they're either pushing Battleborn back or already kind of backstepping the game.
Maybe they're looking to only go for the larger events simply because larger events bring in more money.
Well, sure, but in the same way that I expect Motiga will always be at PAX Prime. Like,
yeah,
there's,
because
like,
it's hometown. I get what
it's
you're
like
saying.
literally 4 hours away. Like they could just
it's not even
drive
just
and
that
rent a
though.
bus.
Like there's this old saying that's like any publicity is good publicity. You know, like when you get the game out there and people can see it,
especially because Battleborn's kind of behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
As a game, like I feel like Battleborn was one of those like we're gonna do really well. Like everyone loves Borderlands, and then pre-sequel sucked, and that kind of tanked Borderlands' reputation. And then Battleborn is looking like it's going to launch straight into a ton of competition and is generally seen as one of the weaker members of the field. It's like,
we've already leached a few of their players. That much we know for certain.
Yeah,
Lukenberg on Team Ampersand actually was a Battleborn player. That's how we met him. Oddly enough.
Oh, interesting. Oh, you met him just like during beta weekend or something?
Yeah, Voxel actually, one of the members of the community, met him playing Battleborn with him and told him all about Gigantic, and that happened, basically.
Though I mean, really, like early movement in the competitive scene is like God knows Gigantic is losing and gaining people randomly.
Since we've kind of dove into this, what exactly, I mean, beyond obviously PAX Prime, we're expecting, they're pretty much always going to be going to PAX Prime because it's in town for them, it's probably cheap to do it. What other kind of presences do we want to see, or more so are we expecting to see from Motiga going into this year? I'm thinking they might be, there's probably nothing Motiga specific. Maybe Xbox booth has a few Xboxes playing Gigantic, and that's going to be about it.
Yeah, I think we might see like a collaborative thing at PAX East. It depends. Like if we end up on a really good velocity and the game is back, like actually kind of going back to you mentioning the forum post, one of Evan's replies on the forum post was somebody asked like, hey, when's 24/7 gameplay coming and when are we going to be allowed to stream again? And essentially he's like, both of those are coming at the same time. We don't know when that is.
Oh, cool. I didn't even read that one. That's really good to note that streaming will be coming back.
I think he said streaming will be back like a little bit before we go to 24/7 because that's when we'll feel confident about putting a polished game out that we're okay with people seeing again.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I don't see that happening before about PAX East anyway. That said, if it times out right and things go well, I could see us going into PAX East, they essentially doing what they tried to do during PAX Prime this year during PAX East. Where it's like the week before they drop NDA, start showing off the game. It goes, you get some early advanced streams in limited hours. PAX East, they open it up for 24/7 access. We roll from. I think that's like the best case scenario for what we're going to see.
That is the best
case. At PAX East, or are you just saying like they should do?
Oh no, I think they might be at like if the game looks like it's ready to go 24/7 by PAX East. And you got to remember, last year PAX East was about a month after PAX South. This year it's pretty much the end of April. So we've got because 2 to 3 months here.
It was PAX South was the end of January, and then PAX East was the end of March.
No, first week of March.
Oh, it's first week of March, right? So it's like basically
we pretty much turned around and because we won when we were playing at the tournament at PAX South, we did that, and then we turned around and 3 weeks later flew to
at PAX East. So
I remember that specifically because I came back and I said on the way home, I'm gonna be back here in like a week to go to Tennessee.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened.
I think there's a chance we'll see it at PAX East just because it's so late this year. But I'm not gonna be surprised if it slips that.
I mean, I'd just be glad. I'd be happy with like just more testing days of the week. Like it doesn't even have to be 24/7. Like even if it was just like 5 days or just the weekend, like Friday to Monday. I don't know. Like, that would be okay with me. But I mean, even though there is a lot of time, I feel like this game still isn't at the state of being polished to think of that point of streaming and like
I
publicly
would say they're
displaying
close,
stuff.
being totally honest.
But see,
If they're going to be outputting party systems and universal Windows application stuff when they say they're going to be, which is going to be this month, that's what they were kind of saying with
Yeah.
the last Guardians Arena post. If that comes out and it works well, and there are limited issues with it, which is hoping for a lot. Let's be honest, that's hoping for a incredible amount, having limited issues with a completely new system for a game. But if that is the case, I think they could be even pushing out 24 playtesting hours even sometime mid to late February.
see, like there's this lack
If
of
they get it out this
consistency in the game right now because
Yeah.
there's a post on the website about their path, their whatever it is, the like what they're working on and working into to release publicly. Like there's this talk of a new power generation system. Like we don't know how that'll work. We don't know what it includes. We don't know
Or how
like,
much it's under change either. It
Yeah,
could be
like,
changing week to week on their internal builds, and we would
we're
never
still
know.
changing core mechanics of this game.
Hmm.
Power generation has always been a thing, but they're changing that system, and like they're changing heroes along the way too. Like
Oh yeah,
people
and
are getting
Raga
changed
also
all
makes
the
a
time.
great point as well. So UWEA also means it has to go through a Microsoft certification as well. So on top of their own personal patch update certifications, to even get a public test out to everybody, it has to be MS certified.
Well, to be fair, MS has done, one of the things, and this is something I specifically asked back when the Microsoft deal first came out, is, because this has been a stonewall to a lot of games moving on to, Xbox in the past. Like, it was the reason, like, Diablo has been kind of weird on consoles, that kind of stuff, has been because Microsoft's been holding up patches. And pretty much what I've heard is they are doing their best to expedite that process now. And, it shouldn't
Well,
be as big of a deal.
And
So-
that's something we
and-
could probably look forward to a little bit more with, the Microsoft partnership as well. Hopefully that's something that kind of goes along with that. And we don't necessarily know the details of that, but it'd be nice to think that, along with that lovely little partnership that we have with them, an expedited patching process or certification process would be
And
a part of it.
I don't even think that's so much a part of the partnership as much as I think Microsoft has started realizing that if they're going to do cross-play games, if they're going to advertise that cross-play games happen, that is necessitated on them having the Xbox and the PC on the same patch at the same time, which necessitates them being able to push patches
Them being
quickly.
on the ball about it, yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
I think we're going to see that just improve across the board. All of the games, Fable Legends, like all of these games that are going to have crossplay, I think we're going to see them,
Fair enough.
getting a better patch cadence going. And I mean, the other thing is, Microsoft certification is going to be a big deal once it's already pushed and mastered and in release.
Yeah.
During beta, I would imagine Microsoft's just like, is it not going to brick the Xbox or allow us to get hacked? Cool, go ahead.
Yeah,
Because
is
it's not like
it
they're pushing this to the
secure and is
public.
it not going to crash our client's hardware? Yes, okay, go. Which even then, the not crashing our client's hardware is going to be something that even then sits a little bit on the back end of worrying.
And the game can crash. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
game can crash. I don't think Microsoft cares if the game.
just so
crashes.
long as we don't, have what happened to Mukenberg during the tournament, his computer crashing to having to restart because of the game. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think optimistically, we're not going to see NDA come back before April. Like, I just. The other thing though is I don't think everyone's saying like the game needs to we're going to start seeing it again once it's polished, right? And like I think at this point the cat's out of the bag, right? Because normally the risk reward on NDA is you keep the NDA around because you don't want to show off the game being in a bad state. Like you don't want people seeing the game looking crappy. And honestly, the cat's out of the bag on that. Like the game has already looked crappy in public on Twitch.
Yeah.
They're not going to undo that. And I think at this point, what you do
They
is
have
you just
to
treat it
overcome
like
it.
you treat it like it's early access, and like you use the streams, you use the publicity and the drop of the NDA to be like, look, the game works. Now, whether or not it is balanced, whether or not you like the maps, whether or not you hate this or that, that's up for public comment. Like, if you've got streamers, they're like, I hate, this map, or this character's unbalanced. Like,
That's
people can
up to the
discuss
streamer to
that
say,
and
yeah.
do that, as part of their streaming. And, like, you just accept that it's like, not everyone's going to like the game.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the
and
streamers
that's
that like the game, that it becomes a matter of, this is the way the public gets to comment about how the future of the game goes. And I
Exactly.
think that's valuable and a reasonable way to continue.
Exactly. Now, moving right along and into that, going a little bit more into specifics on these different types of processes, a little quick one on side is stops whatever at nothing. I'm just gonna call him Sloppy, just to make that easier, is asking, what I'll think of the Focus Fountain post from Persistent World, and then when will the third map be added to the test rotation? We don't really know anything about when the third map is going to be added to the test rotation. When it comes to what Motiga has said, I'm assuming, from the way their big Road Ahead for Gigantic post from James Finney had stated, that they're kind of looking at putting that in with the next set of patch, rotations, wanting to get that new map out to test everybody. And that new map, I believe, was called Siren Strand, is what he was saying.
Siren Strand, yeah.
Yeah.
Siren Strand in that new post. So, I mean, what do you guys think? What are you guys thinking that's going to be like? Do you think it's going to be something similar to Canyon, where it's more of a, really simple one-off, more brawl-oriented map, or is it going to be closer to Mistforge, an elongated, kind of more strategic-oriented map?
I mean, I think we're going to split the middle. I can't see them making another Canyon, if only just because
Too many people don't like Canyon.
The general consensus for like 90% of the community is Canyon is a goddamn waste of time and should burn in hell. So, I mean, whether or not
Quoting Superior, I hear, eh?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
whether or not you agree, I think it's there's no way they're pushing another map that's
That
going to be
is
something
like
people
Canyon.
dislike.
Well,
I
and
think-
also, to be fair, they're even working on Canyon to revamp it a little bit. They said that Kate, in that lovely behind the scenes post, that Kate's going to be doing a revamp of that. Right here, Emma Kate is doing
is
great work
working
and
like
whatnot.
crazy.
She
like-
really is.
Like
But
MLK is
so
she's
with
trucking
them
on and
with
cheating
them
everything.
revamping Canyon, I'd say that you're probably right. They're probably going to be trying to split the difference. I don't think they're going to want to put in another map like Mistforge either, because while Mistforge is definitely better than Canyon, it does have its own issues. Because even though it's a much larger map and it allows for different things, it does create kind of like a bottleneck onto what the proper strategies are. Holding on to the clash point and rotating and pushing from there. Pretty much everything, pressure-wise, orients itself towards that side of the map, which really kind of causes for a little bit of distress when that.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's be real here, though. When we're creating a new map for a game like this, there is so much to think about. You have a sense of scale. Of course, it's a 5v5 game. Most MOBA style games are, but it's you've got verticality, you've got these capture points, you've got all these different creatures, you've got these upgraded abilities, these guardians, and you have to think about the fact that there's going to be new guardians and how they interact with each other on the maps.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's
maybe.
a lot to think about.
Honestly, we haven't had confirmation in a very long time that they're even going to do new Guardians.
Yeah,
like-
that is a
To
fair
be,
point.
I mean, I still think it'll probably happen, but
They had said that it was definitely
technically
something they
that-
wanted way
technically
back
we haven't
long
heard
ago.
that roadmap since July.
Since,
It
like,
hasn't even gotten
Alpha,
brought.
basically.
Yeah, that's very
Oh
true.
yeah, since beta, they haven't officially even mentioned that there are other houses, as far as I know.
But I mean, the
Clash
point of what
Course.
I'm saying is that there's a lot of freedom to do a lot of different styles of maps.
Yeah.
Because I hear Siren Strand, I think a beach theme,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Siren Strand, like a strand,
Well,
like
personally, when I think of Siren Strand,
Like a
I think
beach
of
and
the Greek sirens, which I mean, it's kind of what they come
Well, just
from.
like-
But
I mean,
when
it's
I
a
think of
visual
that,
thing.
I think of more of a Mediterranean kind of tropical theme as well with that. So I'm thinking it's going to be something similar to that.
I just
mean,
think
it's-
water. I think it's something that's going to be
Just
on the waterfront.
Hey,
you
how
know?
cool would it be if it was like an island map and you transport between the islands using teleport pads
Or jump pads.
or jump pads?
I would actually be all over that. That sounds like
That'd be
it'd
really
pretty
cool.
slick.
That would actually be really
So
cool.
actually, getting back to one topic you brought up, I you mentioned, making maps is hard, and like partially because of the addition of verticality into it. Honestly, and this is something I've said before, but I really, really want to see them actually start adding verticality to the game in some meaningful sense.
Like
Like,
PewDiePie death pits, basically.
Well, I mean, not even so much in the map sense. I mean, in the sense that like pretty much almost all of the other games that have any sort of third dimension to them right now are using verticality better than Gigantic is.
Yeah.
Because like Gigantic is, there's jump pads, Taito's Leap, and Dardock's Leap, which is just a super jump. Like, there's super jump and swoop, and that's pretty much all of the ones that actually provide any vertical. I mean, Margrave has a leap, but it's not that much of a leap.
It's a directional leap rather than a height leap. Yeah,
Yeah.
verticality.
But,
And
like,
even
you
then,
look
the
at
maps themselves don't really utilize a lot of verticality
Yeah.
with them when it comes to places where most people are going to be fighting. The most you get is like, a ground floor area and a walkway above the ground floor area. That's
Honestly, I
about
feel
it.
like right now most of the verticality in the maps has almost been a detriment to good play. Like, you think about like how it's working out. Like a lot of the verticality on Mistforge, at least early on, and some of this has been fixed. But like that created a lot of the issues with Amani early on, where she was just grotesquely overpowered because she could get onto these really high perches that were hard for everyone else to get up to, and gave her a lot of time to respond to people trying to kill her.
Come and get her, yeah.
And then-
you still kind of see that in Canyon as well nowadays. It's not as huge, but you definitely
Well,
get that.
And it's part of what makes like people like Sven and Voden so powerful is because they can give a jump pad to their
To the
team.
entire team,
It
yeah.
makes it almost. And I mean, this has been somewhat fixed. This is things that like are definitely getting fixed out of some of the maps, but they're getting fixed out of some of the maps by reducing the verticality of the maps to some extent.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that style of change, being totally honest. If you build a map, the map should work for the game, and if it doesn't, then the game should change to work for the map.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
that's the way I look at it, because, I mean, if the players are going to move around the map depending on how it's built and how their mechanics work. And if you want them to move around the map in a certain way, you change how the players have to approach their way of playing the game.
Well, I think the other problem is it creates balance issues, right?
Yeah.
Like, you end up with issues where, like, you have to run, like, for a while,
Sven
like,
or
Mistforge,
Voden, yeah.
you had to run Sven or Voden because
Not
getting
even
up
on
into
just
that
Mistforge. In
getting
general.
up into but like getting up into the secret hallway in Mistforge was like pretty much the only way to get the wound for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Or at least was the only like in meta effective way to do it, which meant like you had to either run a team that was everyone had super jumps, or you had to be running Sven or Voden to give your HK a super jump.
Yeah.
Which I think it ended up becoming like just a like checkbox that you had to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it ended up becoming.
Does your
kind of
team
like,
have
you
a
know,
tank? Does your team have a super jump? Does your team have the damage?
It was just a roll, and then like what ended up being silly about it is like you had issues where like Sven became really good because like he was a good support and also had a super jump, and like
Yeah.
Vadasi doesn't have a super jump, therefore she is the worst support.
Well, and that's also a little bit of the issues of just not having a lot of heroes as well that do a lot of different things.
But I mean, but even though that is the case, we don't have a lot of heroes. Like, how do you really fix that? That's the
make
the
more
problem.
heroes. No.
Well, I mean, I think and this comes back to kind of what the central issue with Jack is. There's
early.
a lot of good ideas that were poorly executed in the original development, right? Like it feels like the team that designed the heroes expected verticality to work in a certain way, and whoever did the maps like didn't talk to each other, and so we ended up with a bunch of maps that didn't really work with how the heroes were designed.
Yeah.
Like
I get.
all of Gigantic kind of feels like there's a lot of like left
Kinda-
hand didn't talk to the right hand when we were initially designing this.
Yeah.
And like now we have a bunch of systems that don't interact in like a cohesive way.
Yeah, I get that. I get that feeling. But, obviously there's going to be some things that we're going to hope to see change. And talking, things that we're hoping for, one of the big things that, we haven't touched on was they were talking about guilds. Now, we've seen
Yeah.
other games kind of, they do their own things when it comes to guilds for PvP. I mean, I remember Smite had done their kind of overarching party system. And
Do they?
while I don't use it too much nowadays because I don't play Smite, in its early stages, it kind of almost seemed a little bit pointless because it didn't do much other than give you a tag. what
Yeah.
exactly are we kind of looking at, as ways to kind of break the mold? What do we want out of guilds?
I haven't even thought about that just because of the fact that
There have been more
like
pressing things, to be honest.
yeah, and it's more of like I'm trying to think of it because when I think guild, I think of an MMO, and
Yeah.
Gigantic
Yeah.
is not an MMO, or
Like-
at least I hope that it won't be an MMO.
Guilds work with pooled resources. I think about the guilds that are in games that I actually use them. Like
Yeah,
the reason you have a guild in an MMO is so that you can like pool your resources and like in WoW or Guild Wars, like buy your guild hall and put stuff in it and like have better vendors and centralize whatever, and like it's a cooperative thing and you get your own chat channel and like that kind of stuff. I mean, like, I'm trying to think, like, Diablo, I'm in a clan on Diablo, and literally the only reason I have a clan on Diablo is because there's a feature that every time you pick up a legendary item, it automatically pings everyone in your clan that you picked up a legendary item, and it's literally easier because I had a friend where it's like, I added him to my clan just because it was easier than me copy and pasting all the items into our party chat whenever we were playing. It was just like, oh, hey, so I see what you picked up, and you see what I picked up now, automatically.
Fair enough. With Gigantic, I like the idea of having like a pool of resources, which almost kind of goes into that idea of that kind of goes into almost what Reggae is saying, is being able to unlock things using group teamwork. Being able to unlock skins or different progression sort of stuff based on your guild. And it should.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be anything that necessarily affects the game, because then you're basically just saying, okay, to get the most out of the game, you have to be social. Deal with it.
Yeah,
which I don't necessarily agree with.
It's a weird combination thing because, like, you think of, like, pooling resources. Okay, what do these resources do? Do they affect the game? They shouldn't, because
No.
then you're kind of
I would-
forcing people to join guilds.
I would almost like the idea of being able to do kind of what World of Warcraft does with the guild tabards, and having customized something, skins, flags, or guardian armaments based on your guild. Even if it's based off of a template, they build a template and they say, okay, you can color this whatever you want. You can put whatever symbol from these set symbols on it that you want, and you can add stripes here. You can add a lightning bolt there if you want. Go ahead. And that's going to appear as flags around your side of the map, or as the shoulder plate on your guardian, or maybe on Margrave's shoulder plate, whatever. It shows up for your stuff. But my problem with that thought process is that it would probably only be realistic if you were playing with everyone on your guild. Because now you're affecting, the environment of the map based on one person. Does it only show up that way for you? Then what's the point, So maybe having like little guild emblems on the hero you're playing would be kind of cool, definitely be cool. And then even adding in guild v guild progression systems, like a PvP ladder for guilds.
Yeah, that'd be weird. I don't know.
It'd be very weird.
The other
It's-
thing is, like, what's the pooled resource that you would even do? Because you can't do like win rate. Because
Yeah.
like you got games played. I don't actually have a concept of what you would even do in this.
It
Right?
would
'Cause, like,
have to
the
be-
only analog I can think of in other like MOBA style games is like having a ranked team in League or something where you have
Yeah.
like ranked 5 teams, but like that's different because like that binds you to play with that same group of people, and that's not really a guild. Like guild implies like a shitload of people, like that implies like 20 plus people,
Yeah.
but it's like what I don't have 20 plus people that I play another MMO with.
Yeah.
Like
well,
that's like it works. Like the reason
Another-
you had guilds and MMOs was because you had 40-man raids in
Yeah.
WoW back in the day. You
Yep.
needed a guild chat to be able to organize
Organize
a
that
goddamn
sort of
40-man
thing, yeah.
raid.
Another really good one, good example of resources that could be worked for it is the way that Guild Wars 2 utilizes resources gained from PvP matches. Guild resources gained from guild members playing PvP matches together.
So just an entirely new guild resource, like specifically for guilds.
Specifically for guilds. Say every time that you win a game, with one or more members of your team being from your guild gains a certain amount of a guild resource that they can spend on different upgrades.
I have an idea that I think might be actually something they're doing, and if not, I hope they're listening because I think this would be super cool.
Okay.
Have your guild system be tied to the houses. So your guild is like, Guild Dragon Slayer of House Orion. And like have each house have have the sum total of all of their guilds. power levels, and so like there's actually like an in-universe
So
thing where it's
almost-
like you like your character is tied to this one
House,
house.
pretty much.
And like maybe like in actual, it's not like if you're like in a guild of House Orion, you like always play as Orion because like that's
No.
probably just not possible.
well,
But,
maybe,
like,
maybe
well,
if
no,
you
because
maybe
then
if
you'd
you
have
do
an issue
guild
where
queues.
like, but then like your matchmaking would have to like only match people from certain houses
or
against other
maybe
houses.
if they do it kind of like the way PlanetSide 2 is, where whenever you make a guild, you have to choose one of the houses, and then whenever you guild queue, you only play up against guilds from other houses.
Like that would be really cool from a lore perspective, and that does seem like something that like I could see Motiga going down that road. And again, like that
Yeah,
doesn't
or
really-
like MechWarrior Online, Rega, yeah.
And they should like they should have it so like there's a certain like there's like a point value system like based on one matches, and then like have it like a Harry Potter House Cup thing. So like after
Well,
every
and-
season, like the house with the most points, like there's a whole in-game like the whole lobby system is like decorated with
that
Orion
person's
armaments
thing.
and
Yeah,
shit.
I
And
mean,
have
it's kind
it
of like-
per season,
like way back in the day, like when they had because like League of Legends, you like had the Ionia versus Noxus matches.
Yeah.
back in the day, like do that kind of stuff where it's like
Orion versus Devedra.
Yeah, like
Oh
the
man,
end,
this
end
this
of the
turns up to
season.
like lore stuff, man. This is great. I like this.
Yeah,
conversation.
like Corniv, maybe there could be a lore queue for Guild v Guild, but only from other houses, exactly. So like that. And, going into that, what would these resources, get the guild? I mean, other than, oh yeah, we get to customize our guild stuff, ooh, maybe a guild hall or like a training ground, but that would have that would be weird because then you'd have to play as the heroes from in the game, and that doesn't
like the
work.
innate problem with that, with doing any sort of pooled resource system like that does anything more than vague cosmetics, is you have the problem where eventually it just becomes reasonable to just put everyone in one guild. But
Yeah,
it's just like,
well-
why would you start your own guild when it's like, I could just join this, like, max level guild that already has all the stuff unlocked? Which
So
is like the
here's-
Guild Wars 2 problem. It's like, why would I bother creating
my own guild and do that. So here's what I was thinking instead, was make it so that, your guild doesn't necessarily, having vague cosmetic stuff is great, but can also, say people pull their resources and they could spend, say, 1,000 of this resource or 10,000 of this resource for 3 days of experience boost for everyone in their guild. Everyone in your guild, you get 3 days worth of experience boost, or 4 games worth of experience boost, I guess, if you wanted to do it that way. And you could get more player progression levels, or an IP boost, I guess, if you wanted to use that metric. Do stuff like that where it's like,
But again-
you guys worked hard for this. Boom, here you go. You can have a present for it. And that does fall into that kind of trap.
But
of
again, that's
why would I?
by
Yeah, why would I bother with my own guild? Say I wanted to make a guild with me and just my friends. Why would I bother with that and not go towards the larger groups? Which I don't see as a disadvantage. I see that as proper development instead. You don't want people, to form small groups, because the larger the groups there are, the more dedicated players become to the game. Because now they have a community to talk to. Now they have this group of people that they want to work with, that they want to deal with. So now they're more, invested in showing up and playing the game more often, not because they really like the game more because there's more to gain out of it. I mean, there is, but because now they've got their friends. They're like, yeah, let me play with you guys. I had no idea who you were before this.
I don't. I mean, I'm going back. I'm taking a step back for a second. I kind of like because this is what chat's talking about. I kind of like the idea of like guild houses, kind of like what they did with Warframe. Like Shmoo and I never actually had the chance to actually progress our like guild thing that much because it was only me and him playing in the game. But like, when you
Welcome to
actually
Alpha.
when you can actually expand all those rooms, like you have a really cool thing. Like there's
Oh,
training grounds and like
Dueling
biolabs
grounds.
and like this. It's really cool. And then I think like, you can pool all these resources to build all these different rooms for your guild house. And then like, when you load into the game, you just pick a character like you're loading into any normal match and just run around as that character.
With
You know
more
what I mean?
Nintaidos walking around as well.
it seems like that makes it this weird combination. Like it essentially just makes it into like an MMO PvP
Yeah.
without
I-
the MMO. Like
think-
it's literally you're just like waiting around in like the waiting room for a
But-
PvP zone in WoW without actually having the world to explore.
But
Which
see,
like
like,
I don't
that
think is a
actually-
bad idea. It's just like
It's
that's such
it's-
a weird paradigm.
Yeah, it's weird, but like it kind of gives people something to do while they're waiting, you know, instead of just being like, ugh, queue is taking forever. You know, like they could walk around, they could go and like maybe there's like a training dummy or something. You could test your DPS, you can like see how skills interact with each other. You know, like there's a lot of stuff to like think about and work with. It's just we're all just speculating stuff. Like
Yeah.
we don't even know if guilds are actually going to continue to be a thing, because that's also has been mentioned about
Once.
since you know the new Guardian.
Really, just
thing.
this new year. Really, actually, they just started talking about guilds again, and like you said, a lot of this is all just kind of speculation. But that's the name of the show right now: is speculation on what we want. And some of those ideas that I did like is the idea of, you know, lore-oriented guild queuing and stuff like that. You know, doing a yearly kind of guild cup.
I would absolutely
almost.
love more lore stuff, like just
Definitely.
lore in general. But you know, it's kind of on the back burner right now because I also said before, like there's a lot of mechanics that are still being worked on right now. You know, new power system. Like you know, you think about some of these heroes that are being like their upgrades. Like there are heroes that are getting completely new upgrades still, like that drastically change how the spell works. You know, like Zenobia's had, you know, Zenobia publicly already has had 3 alterations of her focus just alone. You know, you could think about Amani. You know, like she didn't used to have that 50% armor penetration on right mouse button.
To be fair, that's because they changed mechanics. Like that's because they changed how armor worked, or how her R&B worked.
Anyway, you know, with all these different changes, and one of the ones that was kind of brought in with the chat actually was the, you know, kind of goes into yours with the whole change of power system. What honestly do you believe they could do that would better the power system than it is in the current beta state, where it was, you know, just we have passive power generation that happens, and then we also have, you know, you gather power by killing enemies and killing creatures, and we have power orbs at the end of the game. What could be better than that? What were the issues with that?
Well, the issue is in itself what you said, passive power generation. If you have the ability to upgrade your creatures and you have big creatures, you already get focus faster. All you have to do is sit back and defend. Then the enemy team is putting themselves at risk when they're already behind. They have to go into enemy territory where it's harder to retreat if something goes wrong. They have to face these big creatures that are dangerous, you know, and they can get punished for it because if they die, then they give more power to the team that's already ahead. A new power system has to promote more active play where people, you know, like where things can be gathered. Like there has to be some risk versus reward going into enemy territory.
So
You know-
then some of those solutions, people have kind of already come out with their different ideas of solutions, and a little bit of this harkens back to people's different, you know, familiarities with different games and, you know, mechanics that they like from other games. And one of them was a kind of third party, not necessarily third party, but neutral objective for both teams to try and fight over and gather over that isn't passive. And one of the most recent ones was from 10 Ton Hammer, Persistent World, putting up the Focus Fountain, which was a callback to Guild Wars and their different ways of having neutral objectives across the map. Do you think a neutral objective is something that should be done, or maybe they should just, like you said, revamp the power, you know, system from the ground up and make it 100% active power grabbing?
I mean, they've already talked about how they're revamping the power system, so they're already doing it. You know,
Yeah.
I've said this the third time now. There's still things that are being changed. There are core values. If those things can't be solidified anytime soon, you can't add more mechanics to the game when the basic ones aren't even set in yet. Like that's just adding so much complexity.
I think you can.
Maybe in
like,
the future, yeah, like a neutral objective, that'd be kind of cool. But stuff that we have been playing on for months now, it needs to be set in stone. And right now, it's not.
I don't know. I just like I feel like we're in this odd thing where like people want the game to kind of be perfect,
Yeah.
and like I think it's totally possible that we're going to change multiple things at the same time. Like that's what's going to happen because these aren't the same teams of people. It's like why everyone like complains about like League of Legends or something. They're like, oh my god, like we're getting new skins when they haven't fixed what's XYZ bug that I hate. And it's like those aren't the same people. Like we can do new maps and new hero designs and fix the UI and do the social systems at the same time. Just
Yeah.
be like, oh no, you should only fix the maps. Like stop working. It's like those aren't transferable resources. Like VFX artists don't make good map designers, probably. It's like I think we're going to continue to see this, but like really, my issue with the power is I think there's the issues people have with like power generation and like some of the larger mechanics. I think are almost proxies for other problems. Like that's the obvious way some of these are manifesting.
Yeah.
But like I think the fact that like the way people complaining about power generation, I think is almost the deeper problem is that creatures aren't interesting. Like creatures don't do a lot.
That is a fair
there's
point.
not a lot of diversity. Like I feel like if you could potentially like complete like if you complete it makes more sense to completely trash and overhaul the creature system than it does to completely trash and overhaul the power system in my mind.
I kind of get where you're going into it, and when I kind of go into it and think about it, saying that no, creatures are pretty much static things. You go onto your point, you capture them, and they sit there and do nothing unless someone's around them. And the only time that it's even useful is if people are engaging and fighting on them. For 90% of the game, 3 or more of your points, and this is just speaking from experience on the Mistforge map during the tournament, 90% of the time, 3 of your points are useless. They don't do anything. No one goes around there. No one fights around them. They're pointless. And I agree with the idea that creatures are uninteresting, and making, this passive power system 100% coined in, on having a creature here is just a bad way of going. Saying, oh, hey, look, this creature, since you, the only reason to have it is so that way you generate power, is just bleh, It creates such an incredible focus, an incredible strategy and focus for the game to make sure you have creatures upgraded on these points, or creatures at all on these points, instead of focusing the gameplay on what the gameplay is supposed to be, attacking and playing against the other team and strategizing over these different points. But now you have to think, if we take away the power, what's the point in attacking points?
I think the thing is, you could make power a part of creatures, but like again, and this kind of like all of these are kind of a like I mentioned before. Like I feel like Gigantic suffers from a lot of like we designed all these really cool systems that would work well if any of them were designed with the intention to be put in the same game as the other systems. Like creatures would make sense if it was possible to contest more than one of them at a time.
Yeah. Fair point.
But like the way it works out right now is like you can't contest like Mistforge. You really only have like maximum 3 points that are contestable at a time. In Canyon, you pretty much only have 1, maybe 2, depending on how the balance of the game works.
Really,
out
only
right then.
1.
Yeah, like sometimes you can.
And you can even say that. You can even say that with Mistforge too, just because of how difficult it really is to contest a creature. You really only have 1 creature at a time that you can contest.
I mean that balances out though, right? Because like depending on how creature, like all of this changes drastically. Like there have been periods where creatures are really weak, die immediately, and it's like not worth investing in them. And then there's been periods where like creatures are grotesquely overpowered raid bosses that require a 5-man team to take down, and therefore it's just no one fights on any points ever. And like we've oscillated between both of those and everything in between, and none of them have worked. Which I like honestly, my issue is all of the creature most of the creature points are defensive. Like the one time we had an offensive summon that was actually interesting, it was the Fire Drakes with Bombardment on Canyon.
Yeah.
And that was stupid and overpowered, and it was the only thing to run, and running
Didn't
3
we,
Drake on...
Hold up. Well,
Drake
didn't
on
we
all
have
your
a
points
game
worked.
during one of our tournaments where a Fire Drake Bombardment killed an enemy creature? I feel like we did. Yeah.
I have totally casted a game where a Fire Drake bombardment got more kills than half of that team. Like I saw more people dying to Fire Drakes than it was a fight where one team full wiped all 5 people and 3 of the kills were to the Fire Drake.
So
But,
I'm just going to
otherwise,
throw
there's
out.
nothing.
I'm going to throw out this suggestion. It's kind of been something I've been stewing on for a little while. The idea of this kind of actually even harkens back to if anybody in this area played Battlefield 2142, the commander position in Battlefield 2142 was,
Go on.
you know, how it worked in that game was you had your different squads that had their different squad leaders, and on top of that you had the commander, which was voted for by everybody, and the commander had different abilities than anyone else. It had the ability to call in tactical airstrikes, EMPs, it gave orders to the different squad leaders, it did all these things. So how about we have someone play as the Guardian that controls, you know, oh, you summoned a creature here, so let's send that creature to attack. So say you summoned a Fire Drake. On a cooldown, I can tell the Fire Drake to bombard this area of the map. Or I have a Bloomer here. I can, on cooldown, tell that Bloomer to put up a healing spring on this area of the map within this radius. Have a 6th player for the
So it's like combining a MOBA first person shooter with like
RTS.
RTS. Like I mean
If we're going to be
interesting.
combining mechanics from other, you know, genres, we might as well combine all of the mechanics from the other genres, right?
I mean, it's interesting, but like it just
Enemy Griffin inbound, take cover!
it adds a lot of complexity, and then it is very interesting, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people would actually like.
It also
there's-
adds a
there's
nice
just- there's just
essence
so
of
much
strategy
complexity.
for it.
Yeah,
as well.
But
But
at
again,
the same
this
time,
doesn't.
you know, the creatures do these things by themselves. Like the bloomers have these pools that are spawned,
But
based
only
on
around
which
them.
thing. Yeah, but
Only
I mean,
on
like,
that point, basically.
But I mean, like, you know,
Just
if
that-
you throw a healing pool in an area where your team is, if they're way in enemy territory, like you have to think about, like,
Would that be too strong at that
would
point?
that be too strong? Like, should the pool be smaller because it's further away? Should it heal less because it's further away? You know, the amount of diminishing power that the Guardian does and can apply, and then you have to think about, like, if the Guardian can do all this, like, how do we implement new heroes that provide new things?
That's a
then
fair
you're kind
point.
of repeating
Like,
whatever things that's already happening.
All of this kind of comes like I honestly like as interesting as that sounds. That's a totally different game.
Yeah.
And B, not gonna happen. Like that.
Hey,
is
you
like,
never know.
Like I feel like we could see them over like just trash all the creatures and start over again. Like
Yeah.
that's I think probably the most drastic thing I can see them doing to the game at this point.
But
Like they're not going to trash all the heroes because they've already built too much on. But like, I
Yeah.
think we could easily trash all of the creatures.
Or completely rebuild how they act.
Yeah,
From the
because
ground
really
up.
the problem is, out of the creatures, almost all of them are defensive,
Yeah.
and the offensive creatures are defensive offensive creatures.
but but you have to think about, you know,
Well, that's even a problem to
the
the Guardian
fact-
as well.
the fact that these creatures have been changed from earlier stages of this game last year. Like, they used to just sit there. They used to not do anything,
Anything
other
unless
than
you were
just
by
sit
them and
there
an enemy was
take
by them.
damage. They used to not dodge. They used to not attack back. Cyclopses used to not summon walls. Bloomers used to not summon pools.
Yeah.
Drakes definitely didn't do that aura spinny thing that burns people.
Heck,
Like,
Bloomers didn't even do anything at all. Like, they
Yeah.
literally just put up an AoE field that you got
you know,
passive health regen inside of.
these creatures have changed so much, and what we keep saying, or what Perry and Shmoo keep saying, is that these creatures need to change to be more aggressive, or they need to, like,
Be more of an
they need
active advantage.
they need to be more active. And it's like they've been trying to do something that make creatures more active without them being overtuned, and it seems like it's not working. So I feel like this is the fallback plan of changing the power system, since this isn't working. And then it's like, all right, so let's change how power is generated and how it applies. You know, we don't know anything about this new power system. We just know that it's a new power system. This could completely change how everything works and how, summoned creatures are seen and how they provide benefits to the map. We have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just like this is all speculation. That's what this whole this whole
That's
show
what the
is
show's
about.
about. Yeah. And
Like
I
this
mean,
specific episode.
as much as I'd love to continue hashing on this topic because we can, we have so much more I know we could say. We're going to be getting to the end of our show here, and I remember, Noirbot, you were saying you had a few things from specifically the behind-the-scenes at Motiga post that you wanted to kind of talk about.
Well, one of them was guilds, which we've kind of beaten to death to
Beautiful.
the extent of our abilities. The other thing I really want to talk about is they're redoing the UI.
Okay.
I'm so happy they're redoing the UI.
I never had a problem with it, but I can see the
Well-
issues that some people would have with them.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that is like having been at multiple events where I've had to explain the game to people and had to explain the HUD to people. Things like trying to explain that those tiny white boxes at the top of the screen represent what pushes have happened.
Yeah.
Almost impossible. Like,
Yep.
no one notices that. Completely worthless as a UX
We have
indicator.
players that
no
are-
one who has done UX
We have
design
players
products
that
is
have
good.
been in the game for months that still
Yeah.
didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
even know what
It's
that
not-
was until I was in 4 months, like until PAX East. I
Yeah,
didn't even know what
it's
that
like,
was.
I knew it was there, and then, but there are still people that don't know exactly how it works. It's like the checkbox is red if it's the enemy team, it's green if it's your team, and then it
Which should
checks
be
two
easy.
ticks. It checks 2 ticks if you get a point, and then after 8 ticks, that's when Clash starts. So it's
Unless
like,
you get 2 ticks, unless you get 2 pushes with wounds on the same team, and then the last one counts for 6, is anywhere between 1 and 6 boxes.
yeah, it's just an auto update, basically.
it needs to be explained better. I agree
And
with that.
let's not forget. So you know how like notoriously, if you like watched any of the tournament streams, there was a lot of, oh my god, the last wound is down to almost an invisible health bar. That's because the health bar for the Guardian extends behind the Guardian portrait by about 10 pixels. Like
Yeah.
that's not actually the game being close. That's just the health bar is hidden.
The
You
health
can't
bar is
see it.
bad.
Yeah, like the health bar was poorly designed. It was like
It needs to be
congratulations, we
numeric.
could probably fit that. And then like other things where it's just like the fact that you can't really tell who's ahead on power at any given point. You just kind of end up looking at the power
Yeah.
bars and being like, "Are you
Yeah,
think
well,
we're ahead?"
it's not that bad, even with the passive power generation system. It's really the problem with it, was that it depended on when people upgraded their creatures and who had the passive power generation started first. That was
Well,
one of the
and
big
it's also the
strategies
tick
in the
times.
tournaments. Yeah, was
Like,
like,
that's the
okay, hey,
confusion.
look, we summoned our creatures before they summoned all of their creatures. Even though it looks like we have the same power, we're ahead because we're ticking before they are.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of those like little tiny weird behind the scenes systems that are
Yeah.
like that aren't given enough like visual input.
Honestly,
You know, the
I don't
stuff-
think
the stuff
that
like
power should be a
dump-
tick system in the first place. It should be a slow generating bar.
Yeah, or something
That
like
the regeneration amount goes faster depending on how many creatures you had, if
I
it's a
mean,
passive system.
I still I kind of dislike the tree based upgrade system and the way it's portrayed on screen. I don't think that's particularly
For abilities.
yeah, for abilities. It ends up cluttering up a lot of the screen and it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to use. Like
It
there's a lot of
basically
like little
tells
UX
you
stuff.
you have to stop before to upgrade your stuff, unless you want to walk in a straight line while you're upgrading your stuff, which is what I do most of the time.
Yeah, there's just things like I don't know. We're still in a position, and it's gotten better because there's VFX on the characters, but it's still hard to tell when you're affected by status.
And they are talking about it as well. Like, they're saying that they're going to be adding more audio and visual cues to the game and making things
Yeah.
seem like hits being more impactful,
Yeah, there should-
and that's nice.
I mean,
Obviously
I just
that's
like
stuff
a portrait of my character, like on the side, like in the lower right-hand corner, be like, "This is my character. This is what buffs and debuffs I have at any
that
given
would be
point."
nice.
Like-
having an actual saying, okay, you are debuffed, you have your armor broken, or you have, you are slowed for this amount, and this is how long it's going to tick for.
Yeah.
Like, actually seeing that.
Yeah, I'd
it
also
doesn't
like
necessarily
consistency on what does what.
like
please?
slows only slow, or
I mean, I'm fine with slowing, but there are some
I'm not fine with
upgrades that
slows
don't.
also. Like, the poison, I
there
remember
are
there was a
upgrades
bug
that-
with the poison from Voden where it was, oh yeah, it was supposed to poison you, but it also slowed you because we couldn't figure out how to disconnect slows from poisons.
Yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
there are upgrades that give a slow value, and then there are upgrades that just say slow. It's like how much, how
Yeah.
long, like
Yeah.
I
Well,
want
no,
to
I
know these
literally
things.
I literally have like back when I was like manually scraping data for the hero builder, I literally have like a double-sided 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with every single inconsistency, misspelling, misgrammarization in all of the ability of. It's probably obsolete now. Like they've changed so many things.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like just no one is proofreading any of this. There's a lot, stuff where it's like slows. How much of a slow? It's
You
like
goddamn
there's
tools. No.
well, and like some of them, like there were some things I can't remember what it was. It was like some of the things were just like plus armor, and it's like how much armor? Like I don't know if this is a good upgrade, or it just like things like XYZ lasts longer.
Yeah.
Like how much longer? I don't know if this is a good upgrade.
Yeah, and it's like does more damage, like
How much?
how much
Is
how
it
much
5 more
damage?
or is it 500 more?
Like is it 10% or is it 25%?
And then
You
there's
know,
like vaguely defined things. Like Amadi has the like does more damage on headshots, which is
Yeah.
just like that's a system that is otherwise like not in the game.
So
Like-
yeah. All of this though to say that obviously the UI getting reworked on, or at the very least actually, being worked on at all is nice, and that
Yeah.
please make it consistent, like make it look nice, make it feel nice. Those are things that we want to see, and make it informative. I think that's one big, issue that we've had for a long time is that, information coming from the game isn't informative, which is counterintuitive considering the name of it. It is information. Please tell us what this means. When we're upgrading stuff in game, it says, okay, I'm getting armor. How much armor? For how long?
What does
how long?
armor do?
What does armor even do? Yeah, stuff like that. Please, those sorts of information.
People have theory
for the
crafted what armor
long-
does.
Yeah, no,
So,
we
like so much.
like we
But
did
That
find
in and of
out.
itself is a problem. Like, you should
Yeah.
have to theory craft what armor does.
We need to know these values and what they do. We need to know,
Like-
we know that burning and bleeding and poison all do damage. Like,
Over
why
time.
are
How much
they, why are
damage?
they different? What?
And
Like,
you could say, oh, they're different because burning has different, ability triggers. Like, Azuling does more, or Khador does more damage to burning targets. Okay. But not poison targets, and stuff like that. Yeah, they're different in name, basically, and the effects they pop up. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So having, more information on that end and saying, this does this does that, should be something they should take into consideration when
And
they're
one-
upgrading the UI.
And one thing is just like these are all like the kind of like there are things that will
They're kinda
like
petty,
complain-
actually.
Well, these are things we complain about. Like there are things we complain about on the show that are like actually problems.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff like this where it's like I have no expectations that the stuff that like the tooltips aren't gonna have misspellings in beta, like or like
Yeah, or on the final
are gonna be
release.
inconsistent. Like I'm actually
Exactly,
Like, I
beta
dislike
plus.
that we don't understand how armor works, but like I'm okay with it.
but
Yeah.
this is what I was saying earlier. There's so much inconsistency in this game. It's just like we can't be thinking about new mechanics.
Until
Like we have to fix what we already have. If you look at the roster of champions right now, like the most unchanged person is probably Sven, and then like Margrave and Taito are close seconds.
I would say
Everyone
Margaret was
else on the
definitely
entire
first, though.
cast has had huge drastic changes to these upgrades. It's not even a thing of like worrying about nerfing how much damage it does or how long it lasts. It's like these abilities are changing. Some
It's
of these
like
upgrades
HK
don't even exist anymore.
HK used to not get any of his upgrades to his left mouse button unless he was fortified.
Yeah,
Like now
there-
that's not a
we
thing. Now
need-
he has 2 tiers of that. It's like he gets
these
upgrades to his
heroes-
attacks, but now it's
like Aisling herself was one of the most recent released heroes, and she's already had a massive like rework on
2.
exactly how everything works.
She said 2, I think.
It's
massive reworks.
I don't even know. I don't even care at this point. But these heroes need to be solidified. These mechanics need to be solidified. There's so much about this game that I love, and there's so much about it that I hate at the same time. It's just
Yeah,
like,
right?
I can't. I can't. I'm gonna stop.
So-
this episode needs to stop.
Yes,
It's
it does.
past an hour.
Moving, so then, going back to then our final words on this. Expectations for 2016. a lot of things need to be nailed down, obviously. One of the things that we want to see is more consistency along the build. Say, we want consistent information. What does this do and what does it have? We want, heroes to finally hit where they feel right at and not change beyond that. We want verticality to feel like it meshes well with the way that the game plays. We want guilds to actually have meaning to them. We want, cross-platform play and parties to be a thing. These sorts of things are all what we're kind of hoping and expecting for 2016. I think it kind of all goes along that same thing of we want things to feel like they are a cohesive, finished product. We want it to feel like things are being locked down rather than things being in flux. And that's probably the biggest thing that I can say anybody from this game would want in 2016 is for things to finally feel like they're getting locked down. That this is the state where we want them for release, and that we're going to move on to the next thing. And they're getting there with some things, but when it comes to a lot of it, it's all over the place. And I think that's their biggest mission statement should be, let's actually finish the game. Let's actually make this game something that we can build off of, rather than let's change this full section of it.
Years.
But that is going to be it for us when it comes to our what expectations for 2016. This is going to be a kind of a tradition year to year from us guys, doing kind of expectations for the next year. It's going to be our first show back after whatever break we have at the end of the year. And that's also going to go into a nice little tradition at the end of the year we're going to be doing is a year in review. What big things happened and what we thought about them, what we liked about them. Sort of a deal at the end of every year. If you guys, are going to want to watch any of our previous shows, go ahead and head over to our youtube.com channel. That is,
Except
I don't know why I
9.
added it. Yeah, except, no, number 10. Number 10's not on there.
9. No, whatever.
But you can
Yeah, we
always
had some
obviously watch the
issues.
highlights. So that, Twitch doesn't like us. You can go head over to YouTube though and watch most of our previous shows. Follow us over on the @GG_Unleashed Twitter, so that way you can get up to date times when we're going to be going live, as well as any new information that'll be popping in with the future, as
And
well
PAX
as
South.
and PAX South as well, because we're going to be talking about PAX South and when we're going
Yep.
to be going and where we're going to be going and all that sort of stuff.
I will be tweeting live pretty much the entire time. So
Pretty
if
much,
you
yeah.
want to know anywhere where at least I am,
Follow
I'm gonna
at
tell you.
Wolfman on his Twitter.
I'll tell you.
I'll probably be tweeting live. I'm going to be here, there, whatever, or things I see at Schmoolydorf. Perry
I will
might
be horrible at tweeting throughout the entire
he might
event.
blow the dust off of his Twitter account and use it at Noirbot.
Yes.
But in addition to that, you guys can go ahead and check out the Go Gigantic Unleashed Facebook channel. We do have one of those. We do have our friends over at the Go Gigantic cosplay channels and
Yep.
different things that they're doing as well. That is all a GGU.
Harry, did you set up
co-sponsored
an email
events.
so people can send in what
Nope.
they want to
Nope,
see?
not yet.
Nope.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
We're horrible about that.
3 weeks off, and I'm still not done that.
Nope.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Maybe
we'll
in
get
time
there.
for PAX South.
But all the go ahead and check out all these different things. All of this information coming out to you guys is for your benefit. And of course, watch out every week on Friday for the post that we're going to be making, saying what we're going to be talking about next week. This has been Mr. Schmoolydorf, Mr. Noirbot, and Mr. Wolfman. And as always, we will see you next time.
Later.